All right, everybody, welcome back to the Life Money Balance podcast. We have a great topic today: money shame. It can be something that can uh, ignite the spirit, as far as making transformation into your life, but it also can be overbearing. And these are the emotions that we have to process when we're talking about our money and aligning our money with our life, and so we can give our money assignment. So many emotions going through our relationship with money. So these are the topics that we have to talk about in order to make progress so we can work through and to. And we have a special guest today. So when we come back, we'll let you know who that is. All right. All right, y'all. You know I love that music. So we chop it up and you get your head nod going on. Right. So welcome back to the Life Money Balance podcast. I am your host, Dr. Preston Cherry, founder and CEO of Concurrent Financial. We chop it up here about the humanness of money and also all everything personal finances. Get your personal finances in order. When we talk about money, we want you to let your life lead your money and not your money lead your life. Your life and money work concurrently so you can align, aspire, and achieve financial freedom and create your life's design. Today, we're talking about money shame in our journey. And this is my friend right here. I've got to tell you all about Miss Asia Evans, who runs her own Asia Evans consulting practice. She is a licensed therapist. She's a financial therapist, life and health mental counselor. She's oft quoted in every major publication that you can talk about, and we'll let her talk about her. It's coming out. So, Miss Asia Evans, thank you for being here and dropping all this knowledge and gems on us today.
Thank you, Preston, for having me. I'm so excited to talk today.
All right, awesome. First of all, where do you get all the energy from? I mean, because you are all over social media. Your TikTok page is fantastic, and IG, all this, and not only do your good energy in the positive moments, you also give that energy off to folks and say, it's okay to be processing emotion wherever you are. How did all that come about?
I think I've just always been like this. I am naturally a pretty positive person and an optimist. When I was younger, people were always like, "You're so bubbly and bright." It's just honestly, it just is like that's what my spirit is. I'm just a pretty optimistic and positive person. And I think what drew me to therapy and mental health work in the first place was that I really just struggled and didn't like to see when other people were struggling. And that was something that I felt like I could help with. And I think it is very easy for us all to just kind of be weighed down by the negativity. And I like to just be able to shift perspective sometimes to just be able to, yes, give space for how hard things are and life can be extremely difficult, but also allow the perspective of there is hope, there is a level of optimism we can have to have change, to move forward, to kind of get past or through your circumstances and hopefully heal to feel better about like who you are, what you've lived through. I just always believe that there's positivity and there's a potential for change, and I don't think that I could do this work if I didn't feel like there was a potential for change, in human beings in general. So,
Oh
yeah.
man, wow, that's another gem. And before we get to understanding money shame, which you're an expert in all things thinking, feeling, and behaving about money, you're a board member of a Financial Therapy Association. All of this. So what I heard from you too is the understanding of oneself and understanding of one journey and how that can impact and influence you going forward. Let's talk about that in life, and then we'll get to the money thing here in a minute. How did that understanding, which you just said, contribute to what you're doing now and how you want others to feel about their journey?
Yeah, well, this came in a very typical therapist fashion. A lot of us go into niches that we have either been touched by in our life or have witnessed people being impacted by in our life growing up, whatnot. And me kind of diving into financial therapy was by way of me having my own financial struggles. So I grew up in a very comfortable middle class environment, but it really wasn't until I would say, mid 20s when I had first moved to New York that I really was really struggling financially and didn't understand it. And at that point, I had been living on my own for years. I was making my own money. I was salaried. But what I didn't realize is that I didn't have some of the foundational personal finance education to allow me to start doing the things I needed to do with my money. So when I was in my mid 20s, I joked that I was making it rain all the time. I was going out to brunches, I was shopping, I was sending my laundry out. I still had a car, I had a car payment. I was paying my student loans as well on top of all the other expenses that you just need to live your life, like rent and, light bill, internet bill, those types of things. And I just didn't understand what was going on with my money or why I wasn't reaching what I felt like I should be able to reach financially. And I was very confused by that. And it wasn't until I had a conversation with a relative who was like, Asia, have you learned about money? Are you taking the time to just understand the concepts of personal finance? And at the time I didn't. So once I did, I couldn't stop consuming information about personal finance. I was reading all the books and reading the blogs. It wasn't as readily available on Instagram or TikTok as it is now back then. So it was really a lot of blogs and books that I was reading. And as I learned, I felt more comfortable navigating my money. But then I realized I had a lot of uncomfortable feelings, a shame that I couldn't afford some of the things that my friends could afford, or feeling guilty or feeling like I wasn't enough. And some of my self-esteem was kind of being impacted when I'm seeing my friends who, nobody was talking about money. They were not talking about what things cost, but they were making more than I was, and they could afford to, maybe buy some different things than I could buy, or afford to go out to happy hours, or afford dinner more frequently, or take out. And I was like, why can't I afford that? Like, what's going on? And I went inward, which typically is that's my baggage, is that I tend to blame myself, and that I look at myself like I should be better versus like, okay, let's look at all of the aspects that control the situation and go into the situation I was in. So after I started going inward, I was like, you know what? Other people I'm sure are feeling like this. I am not the only person dealing with this. I'm not the only person who is financially stressed out or feeling shame. And that's when I started bringing it to my clients, and then found the Financial Therapy Association and other people who were really diving into this work.
Oh, wow. See that story right there? That's why you're on today. I mean, because you're bringing your story
Mhm.
into your profession and how you serve. And so,
Right.
thank you for that. And I heard the word understanding. So let's unpack the first segment of the show, which is understanding money shame and
Mhm.
what exactly that is. And you hit on a good point, which is, money shame is internal. Somebody can
Yes.
shame you externally, but having that shame internally can be, wow, it can be gripping. And nobody wants to be shamed externally, but they also need a process to, uh, process their own money shame internally. What is, money shame? And
Yeah. So I'm going to start first with the definition of shame in general, because I think a lot of people confuse shame and guilt. So, guilt is when you feel bad because you did something. So, if you accidentally bumped into somebody, you might feel really guilty if they were, older person, or you didn't mean to bump into them. So, you feel bad, like, oh, wow, I didn't mean to do that. I feel bad that I did that. Shame is when you feel like you are a bad person because you did that. And those are two very different concepts that I think sometimes we confuse, because guilt is, oh, I did something wrong. I did something bad. I wish I didn't. And shame is, I am a bad person because that I did that. Shame is, I am bad because I did that. So I just want to make sure that people know the difference. And now when we get into money shame, it's around your finances. So I am a bad person because I should have known better. I should have done something differently with my money. I'm a bad person because I didn't do that. And that's when things start to get a little more complex with our finances because of how we either cope with that shame, how it impacts our relationships, how we feel about ourselves, our self esteem. Because what happens with shame is that it breeds itself in isolation. It gets bigger when we are quiet about it, when we don't talk to other people about it. And then we feel bad about ourselves, we feel bad about our money, and get stuck and potentially get depressed and a whole slew of other problems.
Yeah. I mean, thank you for that distinction too, shame and guilt, and they all of their sometimes co-partners in people's
Hmm.
journey. But knowing that distinct understanding about being a bad person, grappling with yourself, and when you're on your finance journey, something is wrong with you. Unworthiness. You've talked about self-esteem, and self worth is not our net worth, but self worth helps our net worth if
Right.
we have a good set of self. And when we're dealing with money shame, as you just expertly said, it is battling with the self, battling with the self, and bringing oneself, down a little bit, and not having a process. Why is it so important to like distinguish guilt and shame, like you said, and then how does that affect how folks process that?
Right. So it's going to be really important because, as with any emotion, being able to label what you're feeling helps you decide what you need to do about it. So there's a huge difference in, oh, I did something wrong and I am a bad person. I am a bad person starts to lead into how you feel about yourself, how you express yourself to other people, how you show up in the room, whether that's in relationships with your family, at work, different things. I am a bad person can really impact how you see yourself. And that um, can impact then what you do and what you are afraid to do, or you feel the courage to do. Your resilience can be impacted by that. So, thinking about shame, it's really important to be able to label the difference because how you feel about yourself is going to be impacted. When you just feel guilty, you're like, wow, I feel really bad about this. What can I do to feel better? Do I need to apologize to somebody? Do I need to remind myself that I'm only human and mistakes happen and it's okay? Whereas shame is going to be a whole set of different things that you need to kind of combat that. So with shame, it can look like, oh, I feel like a bad person. Am I a bad person because this happened? Checking in with yourself, challenging some of those negative thoughts, challenging when you may be showing up a little bit smaller in your life because of your shame, or when you need to talk to somebody about it. Like having the reality check through somebody that you trust and that cares about you and you care about them to say, no, I think that's your shame. Like, you're not a bad person. You're actually a great person. And people need to hear from you. And you have something valuable to give to the world. You forget that you can have value when you are in shame. So it's going to be really important to recognize, oh, I need to start talking about this shame to break it up so that I'm not isolating myself and feeling stuck alone.
Oh, getting unstuck. Okay. See, how bad you're getting right into. So we made the definition of shame, make some distinctions and why it's important. That goes to the next step, which is unlocking or unlocking the process. What we need to do. So it's one thing to understand it. Then, as you were kind of intimating, okay, what's next to take action so we can help ourselves progress. So let's get into understand or the process of
Mhm.
money. All right. So the process of money shame. So you've already kind of hinted on a few things that we can get started. And I heard some affirmations of oneself a little bit. Speaking with yourself, speaking with others in order to affirm oneself, reaffirm oneself in order to kick that process off. All right. Let's hear the Asia part.
Yeah. I mean, I think you nailed it, and you're right. I was hinting at affirmations. Affirmations, positive affirmations, are one of my favorite ways to combat shame or to start kind of helping boost your self esteem if you feel like you are stuck, as well as just getting yourself unstuck in general. I know some people really struggle with them, but when you struggle with them, it's probably because you need them. And when I say positive affirmations, I mean sitting in front of your mirror, looking at yourself, and repeating positive words about yourself. So I did them this very morning. I did them for I do them for me. I do them for my older daughter, and I will do them for my son when he is old enough and knows what I'm talking about. um, but when I do positive affirmation, it really is like telling myself the things that I need to believe about myself if I don't, and also things that I do believe about myself because it will be easier to show up that way. So, for example, it may be I'm going to think about money ones versus some of the other things, but I will say that it can be anything. So, for example, it could be I am beautiful, I am handsome, I am worthy, I am trying my best is my best. Um, when it comes to money, it can be I can overcome this financial stress. I can overcome my past with money. I am bigger than my mistakes. I am worthy of more money. I am allowing money to flow to me. I am enough. Like there are so many different things and different directions you can go with your affirmations, but they're really important because what you're trying to tell yourself and rewire your brain is away from all the negativity that you may have been telling yourself when you were shaming yourself or feeling like you were shameful, and starting to replace that with positive words of affirmation.
Yes, and worthiness, abundance, all of those words that you were speaking with. And there's a myth. And let me see where you're coming from with this. There's a myth that money shame only is amongst low income individuals or stems from trauma only. I mean, the concurrent date we serve high income Gen X, and it could be high net worth individuals, whomever, right? But there's a myth out there that only low income, quote unquote, are these broken folks and whatnot, and that folks with, a little bit abundance of resources or just, wherever they are on the social economic status, maybe a little higher as far as earnings are concerned, uh, don't have any money shame. What would you
Yeah,
talk about that? Chop that up for us.
I've got a lot of thoughts.
Go.
Here's the thing: we care about money. Like
Mhm.
humans care about money, and not all humans care about money, but some humans care about money, and a lot of them do. And money is important. But what our emotions don't care who you are. Our emotions do not care how much money you have or how little money you have. It really doesn't matter. And I think there is a narrative that says that money shame or financial trauma or any traumas only happen to a certain group of people who do not have as much money. There are a ton of people who are very wealthy who are not okay. And I think we have this idea that if you have wealth, then you have no problems. And that is not the truth. It's kind of a this or them situation. And that to me, I have no time for that. Um, because there are people who are very wealthy who have a lot of issues and that have traumas and have had financial traumas and experience money shame as well. So I don't look at it as how much money you have or how little money you have. To me, I'm more concerned about the person in front of me, and it doesn't matter what your net worth is. Like you can still have issues.
Yeah, facts, all that. Just dropping those gems right there. If I could to come up with a song, I seen some Mike, some Human Nature, da 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 da, human,
Right?
right? I mean, because money is human, and like I said,
Yes.
that's an Asian line that's going out, which is, money doesn't care where you're from or where where it is. It's very much human. So a gem right there, and we want to do get it. We don't want to shame and then reshame folks, right?
Right.
Some be feeling something and then we put them in a box and
Yes.
same before, with
Yes.
you shouldn't have this shame because of the access to the money that you have and this, that, and the other. No, I mean
Yeah.
we got to meet folks where they are with their own, shame journey that may be holding them back.
Right,
Uh,
right. Holding you back or making you feel bad about the privileges that you do have. There are a lot of people who have financial privilege and feel awful about it, and that can hinder them from doing certain amazing things with their money that can really be helpful to other people. And if you're like, well, no, we need to be quiet about it, or we don't need to tell people. And yes, I want people to have conversations that they feel comfortable with financially. Yes, like make sure you're comfortable with the people. But if you're in a position and you can help other people, don't be afraid to talk about it if you trust them and you feel comfortable stating it. because some people need the help but don't want to say that they need the help. And it doesn't always have to come financially. It could just be, hey, I know you've done really well in your career and I'm thinking about a career change. Could we just talk about how you got to this level of success? Could you introduce me to people in your network that may be helpful in my journey and what I'm trying to do? So I think I could go on and on about this, but I think there's so often that we really do shame people who are doing well, when we need to all have an even exchange of like, hey, how do we kind of grow our knowledge base and learn new things from you, and not just learning from people who are wealthy to people who may not have as much, but very much so the opposite too. People who may not have as much can teach people who are wealthy a ton of things. So shame to me really is about it. It gets worse in isolation, and if you are feeling shame, you do not want to talk about it. You are stuck listening to your negative narratives and having these conversations and beating yourself up in a way that is not helpful for you or to anybody else. And when you start talking about it, to say, and I just had this conversation with a client yesterday, and she's like, Asia, I thought that all these business owners who were at a higher level than me, they're making, almost seven figures. They're making seven figures. I thought they knew everything about their money. I thought they understood everything. It was just me until I started talking about it with my network. And they were like, oh no, I'm just getting my money stuff together. I'm just understanding my relationship to money. I am now working through my money shame. So it really does not matter how much money you make or how little money you make. We all have work to be done on our relationship with money.
Straight up facts. And if you can't, I call them the three A's. If you can't admit where you are first, and then acknowledge your feelings about it, which is processing, then you can't take the proper action that means something to you. And
Yep.
money shame is embedded in there sometimes. Well, but it can be a host of emotions that are holding you back. But that process, and this is what all this section is about, which you've alluded to a lot, which is talking. But you have to admit in order to talk. So
Yep.
there is a process to get through and to where you need to go, and when you're when you're talking about your finances and then taking some action. And then you were alluding to a little bit of impact of how these feelings, with that story you shared with your client that you helped, about how that impacts finances at the beginning of your journey and through and to. So let's talk about that. How can money shame, impact your finances journey?
Yeah.
How can it come?
So I think when people feel bad, right? So if you are shaming yourself and you are just feeling really awful, a huge way that people cope with feeling bad is spending more money. So even though the money shame may have started with spending or overspending, wherever it started, it really doesn't matter. Um, the way people can cope is kind of doing financial behaviors that are not conducive to where they are financially right now. So they might overspend or you might underspend. So you have so much shame that you are not spending your money at all, even though you might be able to afford it. I think a lot of times we talk a lot about overspending versus people who are underspending, that people who have worked their whole lives to be able to retire and now they're retiring a millionaire and that's so exciting, but they're not spending their money. They're not enjoying it. They're not treating themselves to the vacation of a lifetime that they always wanted because they haven't learned how to spend their money as well. So overspending, underspending, I would definitely say hoarding your money definitely comes up, and that kind of falls under underspending as well. When you are just kind of sitting on tens of thousands of dollars in an account because you are scared to spend it. Inaction comes up for people. They don't want to invest their money or grow their money, or they're scared about who they will become or be, or how people will see them if their money is growing or if they are seen as a more wealthy person. So a lot of things can come up for people and it looks very different for everybody. It's very, very individual.
Yeah, most definitely, and that goes back to like where we are in our life stage and in our own life progression, whether we have these ebbs and flows of emotion and what we're dealing with. Admitting where we are. I like the one about underspending because it ties back into self worth. What are we feeling about ourselves? Our worthiness. Yes, you can. Well, my dad says, you can unask some of that cash, but the thing about it, but the thing about it is, yes, hoarding all that, but that can stem from our emotions, even of avoidance. Let's just chop that up a little bit. I mean, just avoiding finances, you know,
Oh,
eh,
yeah.
at all, it's just all together,
Yep.
whether either getting started or working through or even growing. So, what about avoidance?
Yeah, so I think a lot of people avoid their money, and when I say avoid their money, it could be anything from, "Oh, I haven't looked at my bank account, I'm not looking at my credit card statements, I'm, like, literally not looking at my money," to, "I'm not paying a bill because I skipped a payment and now I don't know what's going on," or your student loans, so you're just completely avoiding it and not paying attention to it, and money shame that, can be a catalyst to people deciding to avoid their money because they feel so bad about past mistakes or past things that they did that they're just trying to avoid it altogether. And that can really lead to really bad things in your
Yeah,
financial life.
most definitely. You said past too, and can we
Mhm.
clear up another thing too for our listeners, which is, can you have money shame about your present and even about
Yeah, of
yeah,
course. Of
yeah,
course. Like if you bought something, you're like, I shouldn't have bought that, and then you shame yourself, there it is already,
uh,
that quickly.
right,
Or like, hey, I see all these other people who are my age who have more money invested than I do, and I feel awful about it. I should have, I could have, and then you're shaming yourself. Yep, that quickly.
yeah, present. So not about the past. I know you heard it too with the with people that you serve, which is, well, why are we always talking about the past?
Mhm.
And that's fine because sometimes we need to process that, no question. But it's
Correct.
very much right now in the present is also.
It's both. It's both. I really do. I really work a lot in the past for some people because people need to understand where they came from and where
Mhm.
some of their money beliefs and money narratives are coming from to then understand that their pattern in the present is informed by what they were doing or what they learned in the past. So you kind of have to go back to then move forward, at least in the process that I and the way I work with my clients. But they both matter.
Sure, sure. Well, let's close the show with some positivity. Like you're kicking off the show about positive mindset, and positive mindset sometimes it's not overrated. It's just misplaced sometimes. Because
Mhm.
and not that you were saying that. I was hearing
Mhm.
someone else, and then I know we both know that we have to give people space to
Yeah,
process. The ebb and flow of life, and sometimes that's not met with positive mind frame. It's processing where you are so you can get to there.
right.
But we're going to end the show with, how we can go from money unworthiness to money abundance, and which leads
Mhm.
to life abundance. So let's chop that up a little bit. Hold on. Money unworthy to money abundance. I mean, this is where we're trying to get to work through and to. And
Right.
so how, this is very important for folks. Being worthy of abundance. Money is for you.
Mhm.
It was an old, beer commercial back in the day. I think it was Bud. It said, "This Bud's for you." Right, right,
Mhm. Yeah.
right? This money is for you. It's not a bad thing. You're not a bad person, and what you do in life and producing in the world, passion and intently, and if it produces an abundance of money, hey, good for you. So, how important is that, far as moving from money unworthiness to money abundance? What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I don't want anyone to block their blessings. So if you don't believe that you're worthy, it can be really easy for you to just get rid of it. And that's another form of avoiding your money is if you don't feel like you're worthy of money, it's going to be really easy for you to just not keep it, not do the right things by it, not grow it because you're like, oh, I'm not worthy of it. I should just get rid of it. And that can look many different ways how people just kind of repel money, if you will. Um, and how to get to that point, I really do think that understanding what your past is, where you came from, what your beliefs about money is going to be really important. So then you see your patterns and see your patterns with money and then change them. And changing them can look like positive affirmations of telling yourself you're worthy, you are enough, you are valuable, you deserve to move forward and be financially stable in your life. So making the change from where you were in the past to where you are in the present and where you want to be in the future, it's always going to be important.
And where you wanna go in the future, that is so important because that's one thing to, go through maybe a trial, triumph, and then go through a
Mhm.
transformation. Now we're going to transition,
Right.
where we wanna go. And, do you find, often, or how often do you find that folks, you touched on this a little bit, have money shame for having too much, or
Oh
they
my
aren't
god.
intelligent enough, you know?
That's I would say it's probably majority of my clients. So I am New York City based, and a lot of my clients are doing really well, and their parents really sacrificed to get them to where they are, and they really sacrificed and worked very hard to get to where they are. And there's some shame in, well, I feel different than the other people I grew up with. I feel different than my community. And and you are different. And it doesn't mean you can't be a part of the community, but it does mean that you are in a different economic status than maybe some of your peers were in the past. And learning to break up that shame and know that, hey, yes, I do have more money. I make more money. But what am I doing it with it that makes me feel good, that allows me to help my people, my peers, my family, my community, and give back in a way that I am proud of.
For certain, for certain. Well, we're gonna leave it right there on some positivity. I think people. I hope we help people find themselves today and give them permission to go through their journey, give them a space and all that. Asia, thank you so much. Where can people find you, and what do you have going on that you want the public to know?
Sure. So you can find me on my website, which is asiaevanscounseling.com, Asia, AJA, Evans, EVANS, counseling.com. I'm also on IG and TikTok, Asia E Therapy. I am in the process of finalizing my edits for a book that will be out in 2024, hopefully towards the end of 2024. So when we're looking at ourselves and reflecting next year, hopefully New Year, New You will also be with my book debut, which will be entitled But I Only Got Water. So that's what I'm
That's
doing.
what's up. Thank you so much, Asia. Y'all go follow Asia, use some of her services, and look for that book when it drops. Pick it up. I'm gonna get my copy. Hopefully, sign one. All right.
Yeah.
All right. Cool beans. All right. Thank you so much. All right, everybody. Thank you for tuning into this live show. Keep coming back. Like and subscribe. We're gonna help people let their lives lead their money, not their money leads their lives, so you can go about achieving financial freedom and your version of your life design. All right. Till next time. Cheers.
See ya.